Guys, thank you so much for giving up your evening to come speak to some Harlequins fans tonight, and to the Harlequins fans and supporters. Thank you for your generous donations to the foundation, and welcome. Probably don't need to do too much by way of introductions, but I prepared one, so I'll do one anyway. Louis is 19 years old. He's a star of the Quins Academy. Made his premiership debut at the weekend against Leicester Tigers. And hopefully we've all seen the video of him tackling Nadola around the ankles, which was absolutely terrifying. But well done for that. And we're joined by his father, Michael, who I could do an introduction that would probably last the whole hour and we'd all just have to go straight to bed. But 1991 World Cup winner, one of the greatest Wallabies ever to play. And of course, most notably, father of Louis Lynagh, star of the Harlequins Academy. So Louis, firstly, what an incredible week, making your debut at the weekend. What was that like?
It's pretty hectic, actually. We were training throughout the week, and it was kind of, we knew it was the last game of the season. Everyone was all a bit tired, but it got to training, and I was told to swap in, by Guzzi made sure to swap in, etc. And I was like, okay, this is a bit different. He usually doesn't say too much to me, but that sort of way. But yeah, he told me to swap in, and the next day in the team meeting where they announced the squad, I kind of had an inkling that I'd be on the bench, but it was only when the projector wasn't actually working, so I didn't see the team straight away. So he was reading it out from 1 to 23, and I saw on the computer behind him that my name was there. So before he even said it, so it was quite surreal when he did say, and everyone congratulated me. And when I did get on Sunday, it was it was pretty special. Obviously, having Nadola run at you about 4 times was a good wake-up call to what it's like, and see if I could step up to Prem Rugby, but I hope I did a good enough job in what I got in the time I got.
Oh, mate, certainly. I think it was exciting to, having met you a few times, had a few conversations, exciting just personally when you see someone that you know make their debut, you're like, oh, I know him. And and I know it was brilliant. I think, seeing young prospects that come through the system and making their debut, that's kind of what Quins is all about. You look at, you speak about someone who you were lucky to play with before his move out to the States, in Chris Robshaw, and he came through that youth setup, played at Quins his whole career. And I thought it great. Was it on Twitter or Instagram? Quins put out, as one journey ends, another one begins. I mean, unbelievable experience.
Yeah, it was, I got that picture as well. It's I didn't know that it was being taken. It was just a quite surreal. Like, my first Prem game is Chris Robshaw's 300th 300th Quins game and his last one. So it was something I definitely tell my kids in the future, show the pictures and whatever. Hopefully after a good career myself. But no, it was it was a really great experience, especially to play alongside and against some stars like George Ford, Ben Youngs, Tom Youngs, all those players, and then play alongside Danny. Chris Robshaw, Alex Dombrun, all of those guys. It's just I've trained with them, but playing with them was a whole different experience, and I've just great. I want to do it again, to be honest.
Yeah, the season's ended at totally the wrong time, but hopefully the next time one of the next times you put on the Quins shirt, there'll be some fans there to cheer you on. That's what we all hope. And you mentioned Danny Care there, Michael. I saw, I think you put was it on Instagram or Twitter, a picture of Danny Care handing Louis a medal at a Richmond juniors game. Again, for you as a parent, that must be quite surreal, having watched him go through those stages to then making his debut. What was the mood like around the TV on Sunday when he got on?
It was. It's been a good journey, and actually it was on the Saturday night, and I knew there was a photograph somewhere, and I remember it was down in Dorking, I think, that where Lewis I think they were your under 8s or something.
Sunday League.
Yeah, and there was a tournament down there that Richmond under 8s won, and I remember Danny came along and presented the trophy, and I found the photograph, and I showed them at dinner, and I sent it to Lewis, just to say, it's been a great journey, and congratulations, etc. And anyway, watched the game. We were all a little bit nervous, and actually when early in the second half, when Morris went down, unfortunately, Lewis's younger brother, unfortunately for Morris, he went down and with a head injury, and Tom, Lewis's younger brother, picked it up and said he was injured. And so we all got really excited until we realised that it was somebody that was injured. So we had to sort of temper that a little bit. but Lewis came on, and I was actually I thought he'd come on the wing, and but the coaching, or Guzzy sort of put him on at fullback, which is his natural, which is his position that he prefers. So it was a big sort of confidence call from them, although they probably thought, well, if you go on the wing, you have to mark Nadolo. So they put him at fullback. Little they know you have to mark him anyway. But it was a really proud moment, and we were very pleased. But as Lewis has alluded to, it's been a long journey, and it's been a great fun journey for us as a family and for us as parents. But as Lewis said, it's far from over yet, we hope.
No, for sure. And one of the things that I'm sure everyone that's on the Zoom call this evening will very quickly realise is what a level head you've got, Lewis, in terms of the way you look at the game and look at your journey so far, but hopefully what's to come. But I thought it was so typical of you, the interview after the match when, I can't remember, it was probably Ali said to you up behind the camera, what advice did your dad give you? And you just deadpan were like, tack on a dolo low. Was that all the advice, Michael? Or were there a few other little extra bits?
Dad didn't usually tackle when he was playing,
no,
so I did a bit better than him.
Yeah, that's right. I would have jumped out of the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, well, that's actually, we were just the night before, because if you get a chance after training for so long, and this is what you've been working so hard for, and you get a chance and it's the last game and you might get 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is, there is a danger that you tend to try and do everything at once, and you overdo things. So the only things I sort of said to Lou and was, take your time, just take it easy, do the simple things right, because you do that right, everything else looks after itself. And then Lewis said, oh, but Nadolo's going to be out there. And I said, well, if he comes at you, mate, don't go high, go low, and just grab a leg and hold on for dear life. And but it was a really. And the first thing I asked Lewis after he got home was, how did you feel out there? And he said, no, I felt really comfortable. I felt okay. I wasn't overawed. And that was a really good sign as well. But, over the years, I haven't, as a parent, sort of offered, too much advice. I don't want to get into that sort of realm. I think, and Lewis will probably tell you, but it was, most of the time it was have fun, enjoy it, and don't forget to thank the referee at the end of the game.
Yeah, you can't forget the important manners. Well, if one thing's for sure, I know that my dad would probably agree with the fact that any advice that he gives me, I'll nod politely and make all the right noises, and then I'll come back and tell him that someone's given me this fantastic advice, and he'll go, "That's what I told you, Joe." I'm like, "Did you?" Well, no, but they said it better. So yeah.
There's one story exactly like that that'll illustrate you. It won't be long on Lewis, that's for sure. But actually, when a bit younger, and I was trying to help Lewis a little bit with his kicking, just out of hand, and I'd sort of a drill that I used to do when I learned to kick left-footed was just start 10 yards apart and just kick that and get control of the drop and put it in there. And Lewis got bored of that after about 30 seconds, and he said, "Can we try and kick it 50 metres now?" And this is going back a little bit, and so I just let him go. And then a few years ago, he was in the academy at Quins, and I think he had a session over at the Stoot with Nick Evans.
Yeah.
And I sort of picked him up, and I said, "How'd it go, Lou?" And he goes, "Oh, it's really good. Nick Evans is so good at teaching you how to kick." And I said, "Well, what did he do?" He said, "Oh, he made us stand 10 metres apart and just kick it and drop, concentrate on our drop, and just get it accurate, then build it up to 15, 20, and then get it out further, but just get the little kicks right." And I said, "Yeah, he's really good, that coach, isn't he?" So he didn't listen to me at all. But Nick Evans, oh yeah, great coach.
Oh, that's always the way though. But Lewis, for you, like, and your dad mentioned it there in terms of coming on, making your debut at fullback at your position. Mm-hmm. Is that something that's quite exciting with the coaching setup at Quins? Like, you've got someone like Marcus who, through a couple of different heads of rugby and coaches, they've backed him to perform and do his job as a young guy in his position. For you guys, as you and the rest of the academy guys coming through, it must be exciting to have people like Marcus, like Caden Murley is another example, that are getting the chances in their position from the coaches based on merit. Like, is that something that you kind of guys all talk about and look at and go, "Oh, okay, if we work hard, it's there"?
Definitely, I think, but at the same point, you have to look at how Caden and Marcus were also had a bit of luck to where they got where they were. So I think when Marcus got his shot, there were no 10s left, and same with Caden, there was no wingers left. But the important thing is that like they had done enough in the training to show that they can manage, like at least like come on and do their job. But then when they did come on, they beat all expectations because they took their opportunity as well as they possibly could. So I think both of those guys, Marcus and Kayden, are great examples of that. Marcus, even when he was 18, coming on at 10, I think his debut was the double header at Twickenham.
Yeah,
he started. No one expected that, but like they backed him because they knew there was something about him, and obviously the rest you see where he is now. And I think the same with Kayden, even though he was young and obviously there were guys above him, when he got the chance, whether that be through injury or through merit, I think all that matters is if you take a chance to put your best foot forward, then it gives people no other choice but to say, right, we need to have him in contention alongside with the seasoned professionals who have played, I don't know, they might have played internationals or 80 times for Quins, etc. So like, that's, I think, the biggest thing. I think just keeping your head down, and then if you do get a chance, like just do everything you can to prove that you should be alongside those big names as well.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing to hear you say that and speak in that way, because that kind of chimes with the way that we've heard lots of other kind of guys talk on these evening with sessions that we've done, in terms of knowing that it's down to hard work ultimately who keeps the jersey, but oftentimes it does come down to luck and getting that break and then just grabbing hold of it with both hands. And Michael, I wonder whether that was the same for you as a young guy breaking through. When you came on that tour in '84, you were only 20 years old, and kind of, was it a similar experience to you in terms of grabbing that opportunity as soon as it was handed to you and just working hard and not letting go of it?
Yeah, I guess it goes back a little bit before that, before the 84 tour, but it was sort of, I left school in 1991 in December. Our school year is a little bit different to here. And I ended up playing a couple of first grade games in Australia and for my club, which was, you know, 2 or 3 games. And then I was picked in the Queensland sort of open team, which was a big step up, and playing New Zealand provinces. And we played it was our centenary year in Queensland that year, and we played a New Zealand team as a celebration. Yeah, great celebration that was, playing New Zealand. And that was in my second game. But it was, I was probably not quite ready, but what it did do was focus me on the fact that, okay, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. And I played okay. And, you know, probably as Lewis was saying, I proved that, you know, I was okay in that company, but I realized at schoolboy level, there's a difference. You know, you get used to the physically being able to deal with yourself, and when you need to do something, you do it. And, you know, it's all sort of, and a lot of the team depends on you as an individual as well to actually create things. As soon as you go up that step, you're dealing with, you know, people that have been physically more mature and stronger, and you can't do things that you did at school. So you have to sort of try and start changing your game a little bit to do that and adapting to it. You can't do what you did before, but it was a big step up, but over time I coped. I found the second year out of, you know, after I played first grade and played for Queensland a bit, the second year I found harder. I found it a lot harder, you know, the old second year syndrome, and there was a lot more expectation on you. There was a lot more responsibility, and also other teams knew about you as well. So I found that a little bit more difficult. But then coming on the '84 tour over here was a fantastic trip. We had a really good team, and we played some good rugby. It was really enjoyable, and I just happened to. Mark Ella was the 10 at that time, and nobody was going to shift him, but they needed a goal kicker, so they put me in at 12, and I got my chance there, and I really enjoyed that, because playing at 12 back in those days, you didn't quite have the responsibility of dictating play and what have you at 10. So I actually quite enjoyed that lesser responsibility, more physical sort of game at 12, but great experience. And once you do and you feel comfortable at that level, then you, as Lewis alluded to, you just want to have more of it and get more involved and get better each time and be part of that sort of environment.
Yeah, it's once you've got a taste for it, the last thing you want to do is to go back to what life was like before. Like, as you said, Lewis, like if there was a game tomorrow, you'd be tapping Guzzy on the shoulder and go, first on the team sheet, Guzzy, come on, let's go. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
It's also about not taking it for granted as well. Just because you're made, it doesn't mean you're going to stay there. So, you know, you see quite a lot of one test wonders, or, you know, guys that do that. And it's not, maybe it's not consciously, but you've got to continually try and improve yourself to make sure that you are that person that gets named on the team sheet first.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, actually, that idea that, especially in today's society as well, and Lewis, probably you'll be able to talk to this more, like with coming up through the age grade system, and it's different now that you come through an academy system rather than finishing school and then going, okay, cool, where am I going to, do I want to do rugby? What's it going to be? What are the other opportunities open to me? That so much of your focus can be about just getting that first appearance. It's actually then more about actually what work you're doing outside of that. And so you kind of had that first appearance for you, then it's a sort of another off season. We've already had one off season in the middle of the season. But what does this next few week period looks like? Because you've got, what is it, 3 weeks off this week just gone, and then another 2?
Yeah, I'm basically about to finish my first week of the holiday, like the off time. And yeah, so it's the thing about lockdown. I didn't really treat that as like rest. It was kind of always, even though I knew we weren't going to play for months, I still did running every 2 days. I tried to do what I could gym wise in my living room. So still, luckily, Quins provided some stuff, so that helped quite a bit. And kicking wise, because I had my brother here, well, brothers, but my middle brother is a much better kicker than me currently. So we every day almost we went down to Paulson Park and just kicked. So I think from where I was before lockdown to where I am now, I think everyone could say I'm about 100 times better player than what, both mentally and like physically and just my skill level. It's I think I trust myself more as well. I just back myself told myself like there's a reason I'm training there. There's a reason I'm at Quins. So I've got to show it, whether that be training in a training game, and whenever I get my opportunity, I've got to train like every day is I'm fighting for my contract, say, or like something like that. So I feel like I've been resting a few days, I have to say, but yeah, the next 2 or so weeks I'm going to be doing some stuff just to make sure I'm ready for when we go back. I think it's on the 26th. So
yeah,
all good.
Yeah, I was very impressed, I must say, and with Lewis and his younger brothers, what they did during lockdown. I mean, it helps when you've got 2 brothers to get on with as well, but they worked pretty hard at their fitness and kept doing physical things throughout lockdown, and that was very impressive. It wasn't driven by me or Isabella, my wife, and the boys' mother. It was driven by them, and it was a really good thing to see. And probably paid dividends at the end of the day. But it's also very, we talk about this 3 weeks. It's really important that you get your rest as well. We used to have a coach, actually, the coach of the '84 Grand Slam Tour, Alan Jones, that used to have this mantra: you're training while you're resting. So rest is just as important as doing all the physical stuff as well.
No, for sure. I think it's interesting that you spoke about there, Lewis, the mental side of your game as well as the physical side in terms of how you're reframing what you're looking at. And it's one thing that strikes me kind of in the interviews that I do and speaking to the Quins boys, the guys that are at that real top level, the likes of your Nick Evans, your Mike Browns, those guys, when you hear them talk, it's in exactly the same way that you're talking about, always trying to find what the opportunity is, right? So I've been given this situation, so what am I going to do to improve? So when I come back from this injury or lockdown or whatever it is, how I'm going to be better, essentially, and be the best that I can be. And I guess for you, be interesting, lots of new signings, kind of new faces coming in, but do you view next season as a bit of an opportunity for you? Now you've made that debut, to kind of be like, okay, yeah, let's see what else I can do here.
I think, yeah, so in the end of the day, I'm still 19. Technically it'll just be my second season as a full pro. I've just finished my first full season as a professional rugby player, so I've still got a lot to learn, and I understand that there'll still be people who the coaches trust / I think are probably better than me at the point, but like I think there will be a lot more opportunities, especially that I put my best foot forward when I did get my opportunity. Obviously I've still got a lot to improve, but I feel like there will be some games in there that like regarding maybe international selection or injuries here and there, like I'll hopefully be ready to go whenever I'm called upon. So I think that would be a great opportunity. And speaking about, like, you talk to Mike Brown and how I sound like them, and it's speaking about that, it's like I've learned a lot from Brownie, Mike, because he's almost taken me under his wing throughout the whole season, especially earlier on before lockdown when I was on loan at Richmond a lot. We used to go through all our clips together, and even when he was injured, I'd send him it, and he'd text me like every single clip. He'd say something about it. So even when he's injured, like he's always willing to talk about rugby or help me in that way. And I think a lot of my mindset, especially after lockdown, is responsible to him, because obviously I think he's the most capped Quins player now, and oh God, I don't know how many times he's played for England as well, 80 odd, and won Premiership Six Nations like Player of the Year twice. And so I think he's not a bad person to have as a mentor. And then also this guy Simon is not that bad either. You know? Yeah, but
when you listen,
when I listen, exactly. But to have someone who's like in the same position and who believes, who has the same self-motivation as me times, I don't know, 100, I think he's someone who I can learn a lot from. And I asked him when he was injured, like, in your off seasons, like, what do you usually do? Like, do you rest? And he's like, yeah, I usually rest like for a week, and then I do something every other day, even if it was like a 2-week holiday, 3-week holiday, like a full 5 weeks. So like he'd always be doing like sprint training or skills, fitness, like all of that sort of stuff. Because like if you come in behind people, especially, I think it was you talked about if you can be the most talented person rugby wise in the whole group, but if you at that level, if you don't put in work, people slowly start to catch up, and in a few years time that the England number 10 could get surpassed by someone who's my age right now, because he's worked every day for hours on end to get to where that guy is. So yeah, just got to keep going, basically.
Oh, that's so well put as well. And I think you mentioned Brownie a lot there, and it's great to hear that he's kind of taking under his wing and giving you that support. I did one interview with him at the start of lockdown, which seems like, I don't know, another life, before Tiger King even. And I remember him saying to me, he said, one thing that drives him mad about young players, he says, they don't ask enough questions. He said, when I was a young player coming through, he said, I must have been so annoying, but I went to the guy that was the starting 15 for Quins, and I just was in his ear the whole time saying, how do you do that? How do I do this? What should I be doing with that? So to hear that you're doing that, knowing Mike not particularly well, but well enough that he knows to avoid me if it's a match day and he's injured and he doesn't want to do a Q&A, that's the sort of thing that he really appreciates. So great to hear that's kind of what you're doing. Very quickly, a few people are starting to send questions in. I got overexcited at the start and just rattled straight into questions that I prepared, because we're looking forward to this one all day. But for all of you guys on the call, please do use the chat feature or the Q&A feature. Send your questions in for Lewis or Michael or both, and we'll put the questions to the guys as we get on through this evening. Can we then look a bit back to your career and both of your careers, Lewis, yours so far, and Michael's yours in the rearview mirror now. But for you, Michael, when did you kind of first realise that Lewis was set to kind of pursue a career in rugby? Because that must have been quite an interesting thing for you as a former player yourself, to kind of look back and go, oh, do I encourage this or tend to go down a different road?
It's a good question, because it was very obvious to me, even from sort of 5 or 6 years of age, that Lewis was physically very talented, particularly at rugby. And how you, I think the key, you can see it, it's easy to see, I could see it. But for us as parents, it was more about, okay, that's really good, but does he enjoy it? Yes. Okay, well, we'll keep encouraging him and keep him going. But we wanted to introduce him to other things as well, and not forcing him, but cricket or athletics or swimming or debating. Or I remember going to a chess tournament with him one year. That was pretty exciting. That taught about parental devotion, sitting in the chess tournament all Saturday afternoon. But anyway, it was about encouraging to explore other things, and also we never rugby wasn't something that we pushed or anything like that. It was there, as was football. Lewis played football and cricket and all sorts of things. And it was about them deciding what they enjoyed doing the most. But it was also, I was very keen to let him develop as a rugby player, but not push him, you know what I mean? So down at Richmond, for example, there was fathers that would volunteer to coach the team, and they were very good and very enthusiastic and all that sort of thing. And I just, you know, with all the other kids out, you go and do it. You know, it's part of learning and learning and just go and have a bit of fun. And there's plenty of time later on to get more serious about things. And we were always very much of the opinion that let them have a childhood, let them enjoy it. And then later on, it started to get a little bit more serious, but still very much encouraged them to do their schoolwork. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I think it was sort of around Louis was about 14 or 15. He got a bit of a knee injury that was quite, you know, I've got bad knees, and he knows that. And we thought he'd sort of tore his meniscus or something quite badly. I took him into the specialist, and we x-rays and all that sort of thing. He was very worried. Oh, you know, what if I got knees like you and, you know, can't walk by the time I'm 18 and that sort of thing. And anyway, it was proved that it was all okay. It was just bruising on the bone, etc. But it was, and I remember sitting in the car on the way home, and I just sort of started to say, now look, that's what can happen on rugby. It can be over one day as quick as that. And he goes, Dad, I got it. It's all right. And actually, he then realised that, you know, you have to develop your rugby. That's great if that's your goal, but also you have to have other things along the way. And I think that's healthy as well. It develops you as a person in terms of giving you other interests outside, you know, eat, drink and sleep rugby. There's other things there, and it develops you as a person. So I think he learned a lesson there very early, which was a good thing, and we got lucky with that.
Yeah, well, it's something I've heard Guzzy say before, that is one of his core beliefs is that better people make better rugby players, or good people make better rugby players. And it's about being well-rounded, and not just, as you say, being so blinkered that then, well, what if that doesn't work out? Or what if something happens that you need to pivot, or you need to be away from that? And Louis, now we've heard from your dad that he wasn't, you know, pushing you or being a pushy parent. Is that true? Or
he's bigger than me, he can say what he likes.
No, he wasn't at all. I don't think. It's just I remember in some ways, like I can't remember a time. There were points where he was like questioning, like, are you sure about this sort of thing, or do you want to do this instead of that? And then if I stubbornly said one or the other, he'd probably try and push me in the right direction, but in the end, he wouldn't force me to do it. So I think that's the main thing. I think I'm quite happy that I went in my own direction and found my own way to where I am right now. Because like Dad said, it helped that I was relatively good at rugby when I was young, so that helped me enjoy it. So I'm not sure if it would have been another way if I was smaller than most kids, or it might have been different if I was in Australia getting run over by Samoan kids. So it may have been different, but I'm happy to get to where I am in the end. He probably would have helped me more with kicking if I had listened. So I probably would have been a better rugby player. But you didn't. I'm getting there.
You didn't. You know, it wasn't. You're a pretty good runner, which is, you know, let's just go and do that. But I remember there was one time down at Richmond early on, I think it was under sevens or something like that, and we came down one Saturday morning, and actually in the same team as Louis at Richmond, there was Jack Leonard, Jason's son, and Enzo Delalio, Lawrence's son. So Jason, myself and Lawrence were having a cup of coffee on the sideline while the kids were out there running around on Sunday morning with, you know, the various fathers, and running around doing stuff and having a good time. And one of the coaches, Peter, came over and basically said, "Can you guys go somewhere else? You're really intimidating me out here." So he said, just leave me alone. I said, "You're doing a good job. Just keep going. We're all right. We're happy enjoying our coffee here, you know."
Fantastic. Yes, a different sort of parents on the touchline peril, rather than the dad's getting far too into it and telling you exactly what should be done. Just the intimidation factor. And then
we're just having a cup of coffee. And he said, look, just by standing there, I'm getting nervous, go away.
Oh, very good, very good. And Lewis, you said it's kind of your first year done as a professional rugby player. I mean, what a mad first year to have had as your first one. I think if you've lasted through this, then I don't think there can be too many curveballs that will catch you out moving forward. But I've been at Quins for a few years and have seen all sorts of sights that the first year academy boys get put through from the senior players. I remember one Christmas they were having a social after a home game which we won. That's another interesting fact that you'll probably pick up. We tend to win a lot of matches if there's a social afterwards. That's always a good predictor of victory. But the academy lads all appeared in the players' lounge afterwards dressed as Christmas elves because they were going to Winter Wonderland, and I believe that the academy lads were all basically just given jobs to do by all the senior guys. Have you had any instances like that? Any hazing incidents in your first year?
I think technically I'm now a second year because the first year's
of course, yeah.
So I think I got away with it from all that because the guys in the year above me, like Jack Musk, Harry Barlow, Hugh Tizard, George Hammond, they all were those elves at Winter Wonderland. I remember all the stories from that. So I think I got away with that. If the season had been going as normal, I definitely would have been involved in something like that. But I'm now going into second. I'm a second year now, so I got kind of away with it. Really,
well, you got away
so
with
far
it until you mentioned it now.
Yeah. Good news, Lewis. We are recording this Zoom call, so that'll be straight to the boys. So no worries.
People though, but I think the end of season social was a lot of fun, and it was just great to see everyone, even some of the guys that had retired, like Jack Clifford and Ronaldo Bothma, people had left during lockdown. They all came back, and it was great to see all those guys. I had the squad all together one last time, especially for Chris's last ever time we saw him, basically. So as a whole squad, so I think it was just a great way to end the season. And now, hopefully, going into the new season, a lot of new signings, everyone can gel just as good as we did this last season. Have another, and hopefully the fans will be there this time to enjoy more Christmas wins and stuff like that.
That's certainly that we're all looking out for. I look forward to watching you bossing around some elves at Christmas time if fans are allowed back in. That's the next step.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I was going to say, seeing as you've missed out, I didn't want to bring this up. But I remember, Lewis, on the day that you first came to the Stoop, you and the other lads, Lennox and a few of the other boys, came around. I gave you the tour of the Stoop, and I remember, I think it was Lennox that said to me, so we're not allowed to look Mr. Lynagh in the eye because he's such a big deal. Is that something that you get a lot of stick for, that the boys are all like, oh, it's Michael Lynagh's son. Oh, we must treat him.
Yeah, I still get it. It was a lot more in school times. It was a lot like that. A lot of people talking about me, and especially in rugby games, a lot of expectation, all that sort of stuff. But all my mates joke about it, and I see it as a funny thing, really. And obviously, it's not serious. But, I can count on my mates to always bring that joke up whenever I'm out. But I hadn't seen my mates for a year, but this was during the lockdown period. As after lockdown, when we got to start to see people again.
Yeah.
When I saw my mates, I hadn't seen them in over a year because they were at uni and I was busy with rugby. And so it was it was great to see all of them again. And then obviously that joke came up multiple times. Oh, Michael Lynagh's son, you can do what you want, big rugby player and all that. I'm like, I'm literally not. I'm not. I'm an academy rugby player. I say professional rugby player, but I'm really at the bottom of where I should of the ladder.
Yeah, but your friends that are at uni don't need to know that. You get to be like, yes, exactly, I'm basically like royalty.
That's what I told them. You're at uni, I'm playing sport for a living. I think I'm going
be careful.
Yeah, no, be careful. Wait 15 years and we'll see where they are.
I might say, on a serious note, that something that I've been very much aware of since you have kids, and I think in a certain way it's probably a little bit easier here to be a Lynagh as opposed to if it was in Brisbane or Australia, where it's much tighter and smaller community in terms of I'm much probably better known there. But I've been very impressed with the boys, the way they've dealt with it, because it sometimes can't be easy. But I'm also I've spoken to them all, when they were younger, and said if there's any problems or you're having issues with it and that sort of thing, let me know and we'll deal with it in terms of talking to you. So, but along the way, I've checked with all the boys, and they've dealt with it very well. It's not an easy situation for them, but I think they've dealt with it well. And it's a credit to them that, I think that their friends sort of realise that it's a bit of a fun thing rather than a serious thing, and they don't sort of rely on it or anything like that. They're there on merit as people and as rugby players as well, which I think is important.
No, massively so, and no, I appreciate you both being good sports with that one. But I think that's a really fascinating point that you make, Michael, in terms of, as you said, Lewis has got 2 younger brothers, so there's three boys in total, isn't there? And actually, that's is a consideration for you, I guess. Was, Lewis, you were saying your middle brother is a better kicker than you, and Michael, you said before we started that the youngest is the best one of the lot. But that's again something similar to the question I asked you about Lewis. Is that something that again you have the similar conversation with them about rugby and about making sure that they're enjoying it and doing it for them first?
They're all treated very much well. They're all treated the same. They're all very different. And actually, I joke now. I sort of say at the dinner table that actually I'll go and approach Quins and say, well, look, you've got Lewis. You can have Tom. You can buy 2 and get 1 free. So Nicky, you're the free one. You're getting thrown in as a bonus at the end. So, but it's no, they're all good kids and they're all sort of different. They've got different skills and abilities and all that sort of thing. But they all get on very well together, which is something that Isabella and myself are very proud of that they do, and particularly over the last 6 months in lockdown, that's been very important that they have done that, and I think they've become closer. But in terms of my name, I'm very aware of it, and I've never wanted them to be asked for any favours over or be granted any favours either. And I think, as I said, it's a credit to them that they've dealt with it very maturely and very well.
And I wonder, actually, Lewis, whether it's, I know we've joked about it a bit, but whether actually in some cases you found that you almost have to, or you feel like you have to work harder or prove yourself on your own merit rather than people assuming that you're, as you say, playing for Harlequins because of any sort of family name. Actually, for you, you're like, no, actually, I'm here because of me, and I'm going to show what sort of player I am to everybody.
Yeah, so I guess there was a lot of that in school. Like, I know people would know like who I am as a rugby player, and like obviously, my skill, but also my name. And there was a lot of times where I'd like underperform, and people would be going to others, going like, "Oh yeah, we played him, I tackled him, he wasn't that good," and stuff like that. So it really didn't bother me because as you said, I'd rather just focus on myself, and obviously I not taking anything away from Dad. Like it's great having him as a dad, but but I want my career to be like, like I want to build a legacy that's as good as his, as if not better than what he was as a rugby player. So I'm not in a sort of like rivalry, jealous way. I just want that for myself, like in a way, just to make my playing career as good as I possibly can without relying on anything else other than my own hard work, basically.
But it's not a competition between us. It's it's your life. You do what you want, and you become as good as you want to be. That's what it's all about. I mean, and I've stood on the sideline and watched Lewis play during school, and you hear other parents say, "Oh, that's Lynag's son over there," etc. And they turn around and they go, I say, "Yeah, it is my son over there." Yes. But I've also asked all of them, do you hear much out there? Did the other team have a go at you? And they've all sort of at varying degrees have said yes. And I say, well, how do you handle that? And they said, well, actually, it just makes me play harder and concentrate more, etc. So that's the way to do it, I think.
Yeah, of course. I guess that's a huge part of it as well, is that people will, on the opposition, it's one thing having your teammates and your mates when you've got the opposition to contend with. And as someone who played sport at a very terrible level and continues to play very, very poor level sport, I will use anything I can to try and get under the skin of the people I'm playing with. And as the oldest of 3 brothers as well, it's our prerogative as the oldest to try and wind the other 2 up. So I hope that you're into them being like, oh, if you're not as good as I thought you'd be for a liner to the younger 2, as you're leading one on them in the garden.
Look, I'll probably tackle you next time.
Exactly.
Was slightly off the ball, but you know what.
One of those ones that's a total accident. Yeah, I know the ones. I've been on the receiving end of a few of those ones.
Sorry, picked you up, but, yeah.
Look, I've got one more line of questioning before we're going to go to the questions that people have sent in, because I'm conscious that I'm having all the fun here and realised that it's been 40 minutes and I thought I've only just finished the first few bullet points of my notes. But you mentioned it there in terms of having the three words, having that family environment over lockdown, how important that is. But your family, as a rugby family, there's Michael. You're Australian. Your wife is Italian. You've got three sons who've all got lovely Surrey accents, and one of them who's pulled on the Red Rose of England. There's conflicting messages going on there. Lewis, for you, you're going to run out for Italy, aren't you? That's the team that you're picking.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, I think I saw there was a question below as well that was asked. I think, given the chance, who would you play for? And I think I've been asked this quite a lot, even like when I was, God, I don't know, 13, when I first six. Like, but I think I always say that, like, if I get the chance to play for any international team, like international rugby is the highest level you can possibly go. Like, playing for England, Australia, or Italy would be a great achievement for my career. It's something I'm definitely striving to do. I think that's what every rugby player dreams of doing, playing for an international country, whether that be for your sole country, say England. I'm lucky enough to have the option for free. I don't know if there's a lot of people in the world who have those options, but I'm lucky enough to have that. And if I get to the level where teams are starting to ask me to go to Australia so I can play for Australia, or stay here so I play for England, I think it's when it comes to it, I think we'll have to all sit down as a family, with the team I'm currently on, or like all my options. Yeah. Because if it gets to a point where I'm good enough to play international rugby, then I know I'm not at that point yet, and that's why I haven't given it too much of a thought. But my focus is to get there, and then we worry about who I play for then. So yeah, whatever team comes calling, almost I'll say yeah.
There's good advertisement there, Lou. But yeah. I actually think, and we've spoken about it. It's great to have ambition and all that sort of thing, but I actually think it's an irrelevance at the moment. You get bogged down with irrelevancies because it's not a factor at the moment. Lewis and the other two brothers, we're here, and they're doing as well as they can while they're here, and it'll look after itself. And if that sort of ultimate goal comes along, no matter where it is, that's great, and we'll make a decision. They'll make the decision of what they want to do then. But until then, it's about cementing your place in the Quins setup and all that sort of thing, and just being as good as you possibly can. I mean, there's all the England underage stuff that Lewis has still got to try and get into that and perform in that, and so it's a long way off, and at the moment it's a lovely deluxe sort of item to be talking about, but actually it's irrelevant at the moment. And just forget about it and concentrate on what you're doing, and those rewards will come.
And those rewards just will hopefully also be in green and gold, I imagine. Is if it should happen.
Australia's a long way away, and particularly at this time, it's pretty difficult to go to training in Australia at the moment with flights and things like that.
Commute to go and train in Australia.
It's here. They're all here at the moment. We're all here, and this is where our life has been for the last 20 years. So we're not sort of in a hurry to move around and what have you, but. It is trying to do. We're all trying to. I go to work each day. Well, I used to. I go upstairs to the office now, but it's sort of like just try and do the best you can, and rewards will come. And when you have to make a decision, you make it on when it arrives.
And I think it's interesting. I'm sure that's the answer that all the people. I think there's 2-3 people I've seen have sent that version of that question in. It's really not the answer any of them want. People want to hear definite answers, but actually. It's an answer that is much more telling about Michael, the way that you talk and the way you're bringing the boys up, but also Lewis, to your mindset as well. It's a champagne problem, as they say. Like fundamentally, I want to be good. You want to be good enough to play international rugby. Well, who that comes for is ultimately a decision for when that time arises. That's not a decision that you're going to make now, because that's like asking me what I'm going to do when I become prime minister. Like, well, I'm not in politics. I don't represent any political party, but I mean, I'd vote for me, which means I'd definitely get one. My wife probably would, just because it means I get out of the house. It's been a long lockdown here, a very long lockdown.
Right there when you said it's a nice problem to have. It's not a problem at the moment. Hopefully it will become one, and we'll deal with it then.
Yeah, for sure. And again, going back to what you were saying about international rugby being that kind of pinnacle for both of you, there's a question here that Clive has sent in. Send it to you, Michael, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it as well, Lewis, which is, how do you rate Eddie Jones? Which is quite a nice, broad, open question. But Michael, kind of come to you first. Where does he kind of sit in your reckoning and your rating, to use Clive's words?
Thanks, Clive. Is that Clive Woodward that sent that in? No, Eddie. Look, Eddie's got a great track record. He's obviously a very successful person over many, many years, very experienced, etc. And look, from all reports, he's doing a great job. I rate him very highly. He's one of those few coaches in the world that has so much experience that you just got to say, well, he knows what he's doing. And I think he's had his ups and downs, etc. along the way. But I just think coaching is not an easy job, and dealing with a myriad of different personalities and people within teams, and driving them forward, etc. And particularly through lockdown, and you've got to gather people together. I think he's got a lot of experience at doing that and driving people in the right direction and bringing teams. And fell short a little bit at the last World Cup, but he made another final. I mean, he's been there a number of times. He's won one with South Africa, and so he's got a great track record. And I think as he matures, he'll only get better.
No, very, very well put. And then Lewis, Clive has another question, but a question specifically for you, which is, are you planning to be at Quins for the long haul? Clearly he likes what you've seen with those low tackles on the dolo. He's signing you up.
Yeah, no, I think currently I'm still on my academy deal, and obviously it depends. I'd love to be here for the long haul, but I just have to see how many opportunities I get if I start playing regularly this coming season. Then definitely, because in the end of the day, I just want to. London is a great place. Quins is where I've been playing rugby since I was, 13, 14. So basically, it's been part of my childhood to grow up and play for them. So I think when I did play on Sunday against Leicester, and I realised that, this is what I've been working almost all my childhood for. It's quite surreal, and I think just I need.
I think it's a bit like what we're talking about with England as well. And when I was lucky enough to be involved with Saracens when rugby went professional, and a lot of the attitude of the guys in the team, etc., was, give me a contract and I'll go and play, right? I've always looked at it the other way around. You concentrate on doing your job and doing it as best you can, training hard, being a good corporate citizen within the club environment. When you get a chance to play, you play as, give it everything you got. And if you do all that, the contract, the scoreboard, all that sort of stuff will look after itself. And I've always looked at it that way. And that's what I'd advise Lewis, to just sort of, go and train, play, and do what you've been doing. Opportunities come, take them, and your contracts will look after themselves.
Yeah, and in the end of the day, I love being here as well. It's like I said, it's where I've been. I've basically grown up in London, this area, my whole life, and I don't know much else other than here. So I feel like
you're comfortable, aren't you?
Yeah, comfortable. I do want to. I look at like Mike Brown, Chris Robshaw, Danny Kerr. They've all played. They're all one-man clubs. Like, they've been here since they were my age, basically, and to see all the success they've had, and what the club do for them when they reach that point. Mike Brown's the highest capped Quin. I mean, one day, I'm thinking hopefully one day I get to that stage, and it'd be just amazing to be regarded as the most capped player in the club's history and winning stuff here. And it's just also that aspect. I want to win stuff with Quins as well. It'd be great.
I hope you don't mind me saying, Lewis, that it's the calmness in the way that you speak and you lay out kind of your goals and ambitions is something that we're pretty rubbish at doing as Brits by and large. We like to play it down, but like, oh, I just like to maybe play one more game. That'd be great. I hope I don't, nothing bad happens. But actually, I remember doing an interview with Eddie Jones. Was lucky enough to interview him a few years ago, and he said, using a football analogy, it was not long after England had been knocked out of the Football World Cup by Iceland. And he said, I couldn't get my head around the fact why Roy Hodgson in his press conference came out and said, Iceland are a good team. We've got to give them respect. He said, I'd have gone out there and gone, Iceland, their whole population is smaller than one of our cities. We are a better team than them. And I think we're going to put 5 goals on them. He said, you need to put the pressure on the players. And in the same way there with you, you're saying, well, in a level-headed way, this is what my goals and ambitions are. If Quins can help me achieve them, fantastic. I want to be a part of that. But if not, then it's not about saying, oh, well, that's all gone to pot. You're like, well, this is what I'm going to achieve. So either you're with me or you're not, almost. And I think that's really refreshing to hear someone talk in that way. So that's an observation on my part, just to say it's great to hear that. And as someone that is an ambassador and works for the club, those are the sort of players that we want at the club. Success will come with that sort of attitude.
Yeah,
but it's not an arrogant ambition either.
No.
It's a sort of, you put goals up there and then you bring them back down, and day to day you sort of stepping stones all the way. And if you get there, great. If you don't, you die trying.
Yeah, you reset and see like, well, what's happening here? Why aren't I getting past this next point? For example, like in 4 years, say I'm now 22 and I'm still not quite regularly playing for Quins, then I have to ask myself, like, what's happening here? Whether that be, is there so many, like, I should definitely like talk to coaching staff. What am I doing? What do I need to do to improve? Or is it just a case that there's too many players ahead of me and I need to go somewhere else to get playing time? But like, you always got to come back to yourself. You can't blame others for you not playing or anything like that, because otherwise you'll never improve. You have to, even if you think you're better than someone, you should always treat it like you're not, because then if you just think you're better than that and it should just be given to you, then you'll just stagnate and you'll never reach another level, basically. Well,
if this rugby lark doesn't work out, then you've got a good career in motivational speaking. So I'll make a note of that, Lewis. And then a question here that's come in for you, Michael. Actually, it'd be quite interesting to get your thoughts on this one from Andy. He says, what would you like to see Quins really improve on next season to put them more in contention for a top 4 place?
Okay. Well, I've watched Quins quite a lot this year because of the association with the boys. But I think at times, we were just talking about this before at the dinner table, at times Quins have been fantastic this year. Some fantastic sort of attack, defence has been good at times, etc. I think it's just that inconsistency within games. You have a 20 minutes where it just all gels and it goes really well, and then the next 20 will be, oh my goodness, there's a few errors coming into this, and just really simple stuff. You don't, oh goodness. And then from game to game as well. One week you might, as Quinn, you see have a fantastic performance, a great win against a team above them in the table. And the following week at home, you lose to a team that's below them in the table that they should win against. And so I think it's that consistency of performance throughout the squad that would be a big goal for the team next year. And so that, break that down and go into each player. Each player's got to have consistency of skill, consistency of performance, and consistency of ambition. And you put that all together. And I just think that Quins, some of the stuff they played this year was, top 4 sort of stuff. They just didn't do it enough and for long enough at times as well. So that would be my big takeaway for this year.
No, that's interesting. It kind of goes to another question that's been sent in by Debbie, saying, do you think Quins can get better at closing out games? They play with so much ambition, but at times throw it away. But I guess that speaks exactly to what you're saying about consistency. If you're doing the basics, as you were saying, the advice you gave to Lewis before his game, focus on the basics. If you do the basics, that the rest takes care of itself. And that is then what brings the ability to close games out, I guess. Would that be fair?
Correct. And do the basics well. So concentrating on passes, making passes where they're supposed to be, etc. And also, I think, Quins have sometimes closing out games, yes, but also starting games well. Often you see a Quins, they start really well, but they don't score enough points. or the opposition score points and then Quins have to come back. You know, so it's all about that consistency. But you know, simple skills, simple things done well. The number of passes, etc. That I'm sort of being hypercritical here, but the number of passes that have gone behind players, where if they're in front, they probably launch an attack and it's just stifled that, and opposition kick it through and put Quins back under pressure. So it's just been able to mount that pressure and keep it going and convert that into points. So, but yeah, I mean, closing out games is every team wants to close out games, but I'd look to sort of let's start games in a better way and put points on the board and put the opposition under pressure rather than the Quins team.
We're the ones having to
have to chase the
have
game.
to make the miracle play of scoring around the last 2 minutes to win, that sort of stuff.
Yes, those are the situations that actually you ideally never want to be in. You want to have it all wrapped up early, and then it's boring for the rest of the game.
That's right.
Well, that's why people disliked like Exeter so much, because for a period of time, I know like fans found them. I know the most flashy rugby. For example, we like to throw our DNA, as we say. We like to play energetic rugby, kick, do audacious kicks, throw the ball around. Whereas Exeter, they score free get a bonus point in the first half by doing what they know they do well, and game over. And people are like, oh well, Exeter's really boring, but in realistic, from a professional standpoint, that's what you want.
Yeah, actually,
you just win.
Actually, they're really good, and
exactly,
people
really
dislike them or Saracens because actually they keep winning.
Yeah.
And people like sort of start, you know, neutral supporters start supporting underdogs. But boy, I'd like to play on a team that keeps winning. I'd be pretty happy with that.
I think you're so right. I don't think any Exeter fans are bothered about the style of play. Let's put it that way. That's.
So I always say, you know, I don't care who scores the points as long as it's one of us.
Yeah.
very, very well said. And look, it's 8:58. I can't believe we've got through an hour so far. So I will leave the final question here to anonymous attendee, which I'm not sure is their real name. They have asked this question for you, Michael, which is what made you? Well, we know what made you come to live in England. You mentioned that team. The only time I let you say the S word on this call. We know what made you came, but what made you stay in England? They say absolutely cannot be the weather.
No, I guess well, we came. You know, as you mentioned before, Isabella is Italian and I'm Australian, so you know, it was the opportunity to come here seemed like a good one for 3 to 5 years. To you know, as a neutral ground, so to speak. You know, neither of us pulling us either way. So, and then we ended up. You know, when I left playing professional rugby, I went straight back to work again, and you know, I guess it just we enjoy being here. It's a good town, London, and it just grows. You know, then kids come along and they go to school, and then it all just becomes, you know, harder to move back to Australia or back to Italy or whatever. And you know, you just get settled here, and it's also the fact that we're comfortable here and we enjoy it. You know, yes, sometimes I miss the beach and the surf and the weather in Australia and family and friends, obviously, but it is what it is, and this is the only place we've ever lived as a married couple. So we came here with just the two of us with a suitcase of luggage, actually straight from our honeymoon, straight to here. And I remember sitting in our flat that we'd rented a month before and had no furniture.
Let's go.
And we'd ordered stuff, and we'd arrived on the plane, and at 5:30 in the morning, we were waiting for the local Tesco Metro to open so we could go and buy some plastic plates to have some cereal in the morning, and literally sitting on the floor. So it's sort of it's a place that we've developed as a couple. Yes, we miss family and friends and that support network that you normally have, but we've created this, and we've created a couple of monsters here. So we enjoy it. But we'd never say, you know, I'd never say that I'll never go back to Australia or never go back to Italy. The same with Isabella, but we're very comfortable here.
Well, we are very grateful that you're comfortable here, because that means we've got 1, 2, and maybe a third one for free coming into the Quins team, to use your words. Guys, it's 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for giving up your evening to chat. It's been an absolute pleasure. Could have gone on for hours and hours and hours. Thank you all for joining us and for your fantastic support of the Harlequins Foundation as well for the latest event in our Evening With series. But all it leaves me to say is thank you and good night, and enjoy your mid-season or off-season break.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks,
Joe.
Joe.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thank you,
So
everyone.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye bye.